Well, in hindsight, like all of these, this one's very, very dumb because it didn't extend beyond my group of friends when I was a kid, because I was actually quite scared of the Harry Potter movies at the time. Number one had came out, and the dude who had another face on his head freaked me the hell out. And then the second one, the Chamber of Secrets, I heard was even spookier. And my friend Kyle, because of course he's called Kyle, went to see it and told me that there is, a sequence or sequences with a big snake, actually called the Basilisk, which is much scarier than Big Snake in my opinion, that slithers around, Hogwarts at night, and you can't see him, and he speaks in parcel tongue, and if you see him, you get petrified. If you look the snake in the eye, you get absolutely petrified. And then he went on to say that it's not just part of the movie. If you look at the snake when you're in the cinema, you too will be petrified and you will stick to your chair. And then to prove it, he said, obviously, this happened to me. I didn't know what I was getting myself in for. Saw the snake, it looked at me, and I was frozen with fear, and I had to get the attendants to essentially crowbar him out. Well, I was a very anxious child and scared of everything, and mostly scared of death, but especially being killed by a giant snake. So when I went to see this, I watched the movie, but any single time I got an inkling that a snake would appear, because there's music cues, he speaks in parcel tongue, I had to look away from the screen, because I thought if I did see the snake, I'd be done for at least an hour until I got pried out. Obviously found out a few years later, because it took me a while to realize this was a hoax, that doesn't happen, it's just in the context of the film, but I believed it anyway. And two, even without that, is genuinely scary, like it's a scary film.
Right, this is an apology of sorts, because before I started working in What Culture, we didn't invent lists, they were a thing for a while. Idiots doing them on one pages back in the mid-2010s, but that's by the by. I was working for a website, which I will not name and embarrass here, but I was doing a series of list-based articles about urban legends and myths and basically things you didn't know. You've seen the kind of things, you know what it is before, and I was doing one on Walt Disney World in Florida. And, the one in France I was doing in Disneyland, Euro Disney in Paris, I was doing that. And I was writing all these things, and I went and researched it all, and I found all the other ones. And it went to print, online, and the editor took me in this one side and he went, just have a word with you about this Disneyland article, please. I was like, yeah, sure, what's the matter? And he sort of went through it and he went, what's that one? And I was like, the one about Walt Disney being cryogenically frozen underneath Disneyland in Paris and just waiting for the Nazis to come back and unthaw him out. He's like, yeah. Where have you got that from? And I was like, it's just everyone knows that. That one's true, isn't it? He's like, yeah, have you researched that one? I was like, I've researched all the other ones about the secret paths so the staff can do shortcuts and they don't get seen in the wrong costume in the wrong land and there being bars there you can not really know. Yeah, I researched all of them, but everyone knows that one. Everyone knows Walt Disney's literally frozen underneath Disneyland waiting for the Nazis to come and thaw him out. Everyone knows that. You're going to have to take that out. That's legally not sound, to be honest, unless you've got concrete proof that Walt Disney is cryogenically frozen in Paris. And I was like, well, not proof, so to speak, but just everybody knows that. And apparently that's not true. I believed that for years and years and years, till an editor took me aside and went, well, that is libel.
I tell you what, going back to things that happened before 2008, which is also when broadband wasn't a thing in my house, when I was living with my parents, I believed so much stuff that you think about it now and it's like, well, how could you have believed that at all? I thought Cloverfield was kind of real, to be honest, because, and again, I know it's stupid, but I wasn't even really young. I would have been 17 or something. But without the internet to verify it, or without a decent speed connection to verify it, I just thought that was actual documented footage, and that was what, because the whole viral marketing campaign around that was look at all these different, found footage and surveillance footage, and oh my God, this thing landed in the ocean next to the, that with the wheel, the island, Coney Island, and that's what spawned it, and there was this big mass breakout, and this thing got loose, and then they're finally gonna release the footage, and it's one day only in the cinema, you've got to go and you can see it. And I remember just believing all that, not fully, but enough to believe it, and telling my friends we have to go see it, we need to see what happens, all that kind of thing. And then being in the cinema, and then as I sat down, and then just my friend was like, are you kidding? You're not serious this whole time. And then just being yeah, it's probably not actually real, is it really? Because it's why would they unleash government files at the cinema? And so there was that. So I don't know if anyone else fell for Cloverfield. I don't know if you could. If you subtract 10 years from me, make it so I'm a 7-year-old, maybe it's more believable. But I totally thought Cloverfield was a thing. There was some truth in it. Somewhere in there was a real thing. And I don't really know why. I have no idea why, other than that I couldn't verify it. but it's brilliant.
Right, we did a video game version of this for our gaming channel, and I spoke about believing creepypastas all the time, which is like shared stories online that people like add little things to, like, kind of like chain letters about spooky stories. And there's a film out there that is very much the creepypasta of film, which is The Ring. It's basically if you watch the cursed video, then you become cursed for a week, and if you don't copy the video, which you find out at the end, if you don't copy the video, then Samara will crawl out of the TV and murder you, and it's not pleasant at all. No. It's actually quite horrible. And I'd like to clarify, I didn't believe this when I first watched it. I didn't believe. I was like, no, it's fine. I'm not going to get killed by a TV lady coming out and grabbing me. Yeah, it's not Cloverfield or anything. God, Scott. But this is the American remake, obviously, because that was all that came out in that time period where all of the remakes came out. It was that sort of period when I was growing up and had this movie. And my mom and dad are big into horror films as well, and they were like, oh, you should watch The Ring, like, oh, you should give this a go. So I had a friend over and watch it. We were like, oh, that's a great movie, wonderful. Very scared. The bit in the cupboard where the girl's face is like traumatized from the monster, very scary. Samara, very scary. The well, very scary. The video itself, very scary. And I remember watching it and thinking, oh God, that'd be uncomfortable if it was real, you know, like I've seen the whole video now. They wouldn't put like a cursed thing into there, and then like all that sort of thing. But I was with my friend having a nice time. And the credits start to roll, and I was like, okay, that was a good spooky horror movie. Start talking to my friend, and the phone rings. Phone starts to ring. Bring, bring. And I obviously just watched The Ring. When you watch the video, the phone rings, and Samara comes through the phone and goes, 7 days, in like a really creepy voice. So the phone starts ringing, and me and my friend both look at it, and it's a private number. It's one that's not listed, and I was like, oh, that's fine. Like that's not going to be an issue. All of my creepypasta like scares flooding back into me, going, oh, you should have believed. Like obviously it's real. Obviously, why did you watch this? Your parents have cursed you. Oh, they must have known. Pick up the phone, hold it to my ear. 7 days. What? Actually comes through the end, and I went, ah! And chucked the phone across the room because I was obviously terrified. And I was sat with my friend going, oh my God, Samara's been on the phone to me. We've got to figure out, we've got to make a copy, getting the DVD out, going, like fully like about to cry. My mom runs in with the phone, the other end of the phone, brandishes it to me and starts cackling at me, going, ha ha ha, I got you. But it was my mom had rung from inside that. The call was coming from inside the house. Yeah, she'd call me from inside the house on like one of the, you can do like the anonymous call thing, I think it's 1471 or something, where you can make your phone number visible. Hacker, my mom, the hacker, Wendy, the hacker, and had called me and was just absolutely pissing herself at the end of the film, whilst me and my mate were like pale, and me about to cry, holding this disc in my hand, shaking, going, I need to make a copy. And that was the end of that. Yeah, it was still a very traumatic week afterwards, because I was still like, oh my God, oh my God, like it's going to happen. Like I've heard the voice. What if it is real? And when it got to the end of the week, after it had been that, I was quietly relieved to myself. And I think this is what implemented more of the creepypasta fears, because I kept on reading them and being like, but what if it is true? What if the call comes through? But yeah, this is nothing on Josh's story, which he's told in a previous one, about him being paraded round after 7 days of watching The Ring, going, thank God you're still alive, by his family. But yeah, The Ring traumatizes kids, so if you're a parent and you make a child watch The Ring, don't ring them afterwards. Don't do it.
That's why they got age ratings, Ash.
Yeah. I can't remember how old I was. I was old enough to know better. This was after the whole video game debacle. So yeah, but yeah.
You're alive though?
Just about.
I believed so many things growing up, because that's what you are when you're a child. You're really gullible and you believe everything, you know, whether it's like video game tricks that Brad tells you that you can do, even though you definitely can't, and he was actually lying. When it comes to films, there was one film in particular that really stood out to me, and that's back when, you know, you go into HMV, which is like a video store for everyone in America, and then Blockbuster as well. And you'd go in and you'd always see the DVDs that you could never touch, because they had like 18 and 15 on and so on. And there was one called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which really stood out to me when you're young, because obviously chainsaws are big and scary, and the man was wearing another man's face. And there is a thing on the poster, or the cover for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays. Well, back then when it was DVDs or VHS, and it was like America's most bizarre and brutal crimes. And I just assumed when I was growing up that all of that actually happened. For a time, I'm fairly certain I was convinced that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was literally a snuff movie until I actually got onto dial-up and I started Googling all these trailers that I wasn't allowed to watch. Went on a massive thing, and I looked at the first trailer for Psycho, which is really creepy, where Alfred Hitchcock's going through the Bates Motel and he's having it's a really good trailer, you should go watch it. And then I got to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one, and I was like, this definitely happened. America's most bizarre and brutal crimes. You got the guy, the trailer voice guy narrating it, saying, what happened to these teens was unspeakable. And I was like, oh my God, these poor kids got killed by a man wearing another man's face and, got chainsawed to death. And I know for a fact that, obviously it was based in part on Ed Gein, who was a very creepy, ghoulish man from the 50s. And that man has inspired so many of America's really creepy slasher movie characters. But the actual fact remains that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre didn't happen, just in case you were confused, needed some resolution there. But it did spark some fascination in true crime, which I'm still not over. But yeah, I believe the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the lights have gone. The lights have gone. And nobody's home.
I was a bit of an idiot as a child and young adult, and I'm still, to be honest. Don't nod so vigorously there. And I believed a lot of things that I shouldn't have from films. Sometimes I invented things myself. For instance, for about 10 years, I thought that if you went swimming in a swimming pool, there was a very real chance a shark would come out of a tube into the swimming pool. This was based on a film that I can't even remember, but it's stuck in my head for that long.
Was it Jaws 3?
It's very possible. I know that it's happened in Bond films as well. Things that you shouldn't believe in, but I did. I also believe that when Robert Zemeckis said that hoverboards in Back to the Future 2 were real, I believed that, which everybody did, which is why everybody says it's 2020, where's our hoverboards? That's on Robert Zemeckis. But the one that I believed for the longest, I think, up until a couple of years ago, probably, and this is ridiculous, of course, is that there was a ghost in Three Men and a Baby. Three Men and a Little Lady, I can't remember which one it was, I think it's the first one, where there's an apartment shot, and it's like a tracking shot of, I don't know which character it is, I don't know, maybe Tom Selleck, I don't know. I wasn't looking at them because I was looking in the background for the ghost, which was definitely in the window. If you look between the curtains, there's a distinctive figure of what can only be described as a Victorian boy wearing a hat and braces and a shirt. I remember this vividly, but it didn't happen. I'll tell you for why. What actually happened was there's a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson's character because he's an actor. And this cardboard cutout appears in a different scene completely, but they moved it and put it in the window. Some prankster put it in the behind the curtains, obviously for this reason, to like freak people out. And it became this meme before there was even an internet, where you had to go and watch Three Men and a Baby because it had a ghost in it. Oh, and oh my God, it's a comedy, and they don't get haunted, and that made it even more special. And it just wasn't true, but I believed it for so long up until the advent of like HD Blu-rays pointed out that it was just Ted Danson and he wasn't even wearing this outfit. I was fundamentally fully behind the idea that there was a ghost in that film.